Hello, everyone. The Feast of and hello, everyone in the back there, the cool people in the back, and the chairs back there. Hello, back there, all the way back there. Oh, it's so great to be at the Feast of Tabernacles, to be a part of this. Are y'all having a good time with your tabernacle? Okay, all right, great. It's wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Texas. Yeehaw. Yeehaw, I'm from Texas. And who's from Texas out here? All right, watch out for those folks, the Texans. But I've been at my current home for about 3 years, and I moved to Tyler, Texas about 6 years ago. And I work for the Church of God International and do webcasts and all kinds of things. It's real complicated, boring stuff. You don't want to know about it. But I've been there for 6 years. And my original home is Alabama. Anybody? Alabama, Roll Tide, anyone? Alabama? Okay, we got Wayne Hendricks. Wayne Hendricks, yeah, that's Wayne Hendricks. The original home is Alabama. And I can tell. He's from Alabama. So it was a pretty substantial move. I guess there was a talk about a substantial move from Canada to Texas. So not as far from Alabama to Texas than from Canada to Texas, because we speak the same language in Alabama as in Texas. You know, Canadians, they have a little bit different dialect, I think. And so I grew up in a place called Pinson, Alabama. And the first home that I remember was in a trailer park. So we lived in a trailer park. I was only 3 years old, and we had a beautiful brand new trailer that my parents had bought, and we moved in. It was our home. I remember we had like a lime green stove, and shag carpet, lime green refrigerator to match that stove. We had a television set that was made out of wood. Believe that, children? They made TV sets out of wood, mostly wood. There was a tube. And so I remember that as my home, my very first home, my very first memories. And I guess back then, as a kid, they let us roam around a little bit more than they do today. And so I would roam around the neighborhood and spend time with friends, and it was just great memories of that place. One of my earliest memories, I remember I guess I'd roamed a little bit too far away. And my mom, she went and she's looking for me, and she found me. And so I was probably like 3 or 4, and so she grabbed my hand, and she walked me home. And I remember walking home with her, and we went into our home, and there was some dinner, and it was just such a wonderful feeling to be at home that we had there. And so as we progressed, I had a couple more brothers, and we moved into some bigger homes, the trailer. And actually, I went and looked on Google Maps. That trailer is still there. It's still there. And I went and visited it probably about 10 years ago just to see it, because you get memories. So we moved into bigger homes. And I guess there's like many of us, there was a time when we moved into our own home. And we moved out. And my first little home was probably like a little shack, kind of like these cabins. But I remember making it my own, getting the furniture the way I like it. It was just very nice to have a home that you can call your own home. And so recently, I just moved to my home in Tyler, a new home, and I think I finally, after 3 years, have it exactly like I like it. I put some laminate floor in place of carpet. I think a lot of people are doing that, and when I did it, it made such a big difference. I said, well, that looks nice, and it didn't really cost too much. I have a home theater room that I have made a bedroom out of, and it's just great, to go watch movies when I have time in there. And I have nicer furniture than probably when I first moved out into the little shack back in the 90s. So I guess we all have homes. We all have our homes. And I would assume we have similar nostalgic feelings about our homes. And so when we think about what does home mean, what do we think about when we think about our home? What ideas come into our mind when we think about home? So first is location. And I mentioned I'm from Alabama. And so even though I'm in Texas, I don't have boots yet. Maybe that might take another 4 or 5 years to get some boots. But even though I'm in Texas, Alabama will always be, it'll be my home. It'll be my home. And actually, there's a song about that by a country group named Alabama. You heard of them? And in the song, it says, while I'll speak my Southern English, just as natural as I please, I'm in the heart of Dixie. Dixie's in the heart of me. And someday when I make it, when love finds a way, somewhere high on Lookout Mountain, I'll just smile with pride and say that my home's in Alabama, no matter where I lay my head. My home's in Alabama, Southern born, Southern bred. Yeah, that's that. So that's what I feel about home is Alabama. But I've now made Texas my home, and so I feel like a Texan because it's now a part of me as well. So I'm a dual citizen, so to speak. So when we think of home, we think of a place. And for me, that place is Texas and Alabama. And also when we think of home, what do we think about? I think we think of probably first is family, right? We think about family when we think of home. And I'm in Texas. I'm a single man. So I haven't started a family on my own yet, but I do have my family still in Alabama, and some have moved across the country, and their family. And the people in Tyler, the church, well, they're my family, right? I think we can feel that. If you know, the church is a family for those who have none, is what I always like to think of. You know, the church is a family for those without a family. So I have a church family. So home is a place for family. So I looked up some acronyms for family. So I was thinking, you know, if I want to find out how people feel about family, well, you know, acronyms is usually like a cute little way people try to take the letters in a word and spell it out. And so I found a few acronyms for family. So FAMILY. So one is Father and Mother, I love you. I said, well, that's a pretty good acronym that we have here. Another acronym I found, I think I found these on Pinterest because there's little things people can post from Pinterest. One is faithful, affectionate, mindful, intuitive, loving, and then yin and yang. And then I was like, well, yin and yang? I was like, I guess they ran out of English words when they were coming up with this acronym, and they had to say, what are we going to put for Y? Yin and yang. But yin and yang is a Chinese idea for opposites, that opposites can work together. And that's what families are, right? We may be opposite, we have different skills, and we work together as a family. And another acronym is forever, always mine, I love you, family. And a common theme in these acronyms is that family is about love. So when we think of family, we think of love. When we think of home, we think of love. Home is comfortable. Home is comfortable. I'm going to share a secret just with y'all, and I guess everybody out there. So I'm going to share a secret just with y'all, and I guess everybody watching out there, about being comfortable. All right, don't tell anyone. But when I'm at home by myself, I'll walk around in my underwear. All right, so I guess because I live by myself and I'm comfortable walking around in my underwear, and I see Skip back there. Skip's thinking, he says, Jeff, you don't have to live alone to walk around in your underwear. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is correct. I do remember because I had two brothers. My dad would walk around comfortably in the house with the underwear because it's comfortable. And it's comfortable to a point until and usually when this happens, somebody rings the doorbell or they knock on the doors. And this actually happened here yesterday. They were knocking and I was ironing in my underwear. And they're like, we got towels. I was like, I got towels. I got to get some pants, put on a shirt, and go get some towels. So we love to be comfortable at home. We decorate our homes to be familiar. That when we walk in, we see pictures, we see things that we like in our homes. They're comforting to us. And also my cabin, the first day I got here, I got into the cabin. It was late, about 8 o'clock. And I started noticing, I said, something doesn't feel right about this cabin. I'm like, what is this? It's like, something don't feel right. And I was like, I don't think the air conditioner's working. And so I looked at the air. Well, it says 70. I went and felt the vent. I said, that don't feel very cold. And I walked outside. I said, it feels colder outside than it does inside the cabin. And I was like, well, what do I do? It's kind of late. I can call somebody about this. I said, well, maybe I'll go try to go to bed. So I opened the covers to go get in bed, and I'm there. I'm like, I'm calling maintenance. I'm like, maintenance. My air's not working. And I love it. These people here are great. Within like 10 minutes, they were out there. They got me to the cabin next door. And again, in that cabin, I was like kind of grumpy. I wasn't feeling too, I was like, I'm here at the feast, and it's so hot, and it's uncomfortable. I got into the new cabin where it was 70 degrees. I was like, oh, the feast is great. It's wonderful. It was such a difference to be comfortable as opposed to being uncomfortable. And again, they tell me, right, because I'm kind of young, they tell me that a lot of y'all used to camp out in tents during the feast. And I'm going, I am so glad that somebody in a sermon or some point, I don't know who did it, maybe y'all can tell me, they're like, well, you can camp in a tent, but also a condo is a temporary dwelling. A hotel room is a temporary dwelling. A cabin is a temporary dwelling. I was like, I like that. I like that person. I want to meet that person because I'm in a temporary dwelling and it's comfortable. All right, so home is a place where we rest also. After a hard day at work, y'all work in here? Work hard, maybe you work hard. After you really work hard, you work overtime. It's so great to come back to a comfortable home. And a bed is very important. As I get older, I've noticed a bed gets more important as you get older. And so I see commercials for like MyPillow. Who here has a MyPillow? Is it comfortable? All right, it's comfortable. And you can sleep well. And I see advertisements for Purple mattress, the Casper mattress, the Lisa mattress. I always see this all day long. Maybe I'm noticing it because I'm thinking about, I want a good rest at night. And again, how many of y'all got a good night's sleep last night? Because, yeah, that's good. Sometimes at the feast I can't because it's not my bed. It's another bed, and it's not as comfortable as the one back at my home. And so when I think about home, I think of home as a place that I can get rest. So home is a place, home is family, home is comfortable, home is restful, home is safe. Usually we're safe and feel safe when we're at home. I think I have a security camera at my home, and I got walls, I got doors I can lock if I need to. Now, someone in the church in Tyler told me that they had a copperhead come into their house. And if I had a copperhead in my house, and after they said that, I went and checked all my barriers and made sure there was no holes in my house because I don't want a copperhead to get inside because we want it to be safe. I remember it was probably 3 years ago, I was driving home through a thunderstorm. You ever drove through a really bad thunderstorm you can't even see? So I was driving a thunderstorm, I couldn't even see, and I was about a mile from my house. I was like, I just want to get home. This rain is like, I'm trying my best to be careful. I just want to get home, and right before I got home, there was like a stream of water that was in front of me. And there's a car in front of me, and the guy got out, and he was thinking about, should I go pass through this water, or should we stay? And I guess what I've seen videos, it's probably not a good idea to drive through running water. But he kind of walks out and kind of wades in it. I said, well, it looks okay. It's not going too fast. I said, you go ahead and drive across, and if something happens, I'll call someone. So he drives across, and I watch, and it's okay. So I follow him, and I drive across. And I'm like, all right, I'm a half mile from home. And then when I got to my home, there's like a big lake, like where there should be a road. But finally, after, I'm not going to go into the long story, when I got home, I was like, oh, I'm safe. I'm safe from the floodwaters because I was a little bit higher ground. So we are safe and dry. So those are the various aspects we have of home. And something this morning reminded me that animals have home, right? Animals have home. Birds build nests. Bears live in dens. And so animals, they build home for safety. And so this morning when I was out walking, and this is a true story, I saw a groundhog. This morning. And I saw the groundhog. I don't know what you would think when you saw a groundhog, but me being a normal person, I was like, I think I can catch it. I think I can catch that groundhog. And so two scenarios went through my mind. I was like, well, if I sneak up behind the groundhog, I can jump it, and I got it, but then it'll bite me. I was like, oh. And the second scenario, which is probably the more realistic scenario, is I go after it, it runs and goes into its hole, and then it's safe from me. I can't catch it. Because they have holes, they have things so they can be safe. So let's turn to Matthew 8. Matthew 8. Matthew chapter 8, we're going to look at verse 18. And in verse 18 it says, "And when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave a command to depart to the other side," because he was doing so many miracles. He was so popular that they were gathering around him. They wanted to be there with Christ the Messiah. And then verse 19, "Then a certain scribe came and said to him, 'Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go.'" And what Jesus says to him, to me, is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Verse 20, "And Jesus said to him, 'Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head.'" So he's saying, foxes got their homes, birds have homes, but he's saying, in effect, to this person, if you follow me, you're going to have to give up your home, because right now I don't have a home. I'm without a home. Because Christ is saying, due to his mission, and wasn't quite a mission, to die for the sins of humanity, to be our Savior, he was away from home. And to follow him is to give up your home. Philippians chapter 2. Let's turn to Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5 says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God." So the home of Jesus Christ in heaven is what he gave up to come to be flesh and blood like we are on earth. It's amazing. He said, "But made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the cross." The death of the cross. So it's hard to imagine what he gave up. All the aspects we talked about of home, that's what he had in the God kingdom, in heaven with his Father. And I can imagine it's like maybe if I became a rat. Like if I became a rat, maybe that would be kind of a comparison of what it is for Christ to be a human. But if I was a rat, I'd probably be a really bad rat. I'd probably be walking around and I'd be like, "Oh, look, free cheese," and then my life would end, and it would be a very short life. So I'd be a terrible rat. But the difference between us and a rat is infinitesimal. It is infinitely different from what God is to what we are. We're closer to a rat, very close, like this, us and God, infinite, in what Christ gave up to come to earth. John chapter 1. John chapter 1 and verse 14. "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." So that Hebrew word dwelt, I think a lot of us know this because we're here, it's the word skeno, and it's more accurately translated camped or tabernacled. So it says the Word became flesh and he tabernacled. He camped amongst us lowly humans. He came down, he says, the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So just like, and again, we're getting to the analogies here, right? We leave our physical home, and we come here to Tabernacle. Oh, he left so much more than our, My Pillows. I'm sure you probably brought your My Pillow, didn't you? Yeah, you probably did bring your My Pillow. But whatever you left at home, you won't get that until 8 days later. We give all that up to come here to be a part of God's Feast of Tabernacles. So keeping the feast, we can understand some amazing things about God's plan for our lives. And what we'll learn about, what we're going to look at, is our true home. This is and by keeping tabernacles of the feast, we're going to learn that home is a place or location. So we're going to learn where our true home is. Home is family. We're going to learn, and we learn by keeping this, by being here, we're learning our true family this week. Home is comfortable. We're going to learn what true comfort actually means. Home is restful. We're learning about true rest. Home is safe, and we're going to learn about true safety, all the aspects of what makes a home. So in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 5, we'll begin looking at these things. And it says, for we know, 2 Corinthians 5, verse 5, we know that if this earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. So one important aspect about homes is whether you live in a trailer, a cabin, a mansion, or a mat under a bridge, the true home that we're most comfortable in is our skin, our body. This is where we're comfortable. Some more comfortable than others, but we're comfortable in our bodies. And right now, we have a spiritual house, it says, in heaven, not built by human hands. Verse 2 says, meaning we groan, longing to be clothed instead we're our heavenly dwelling. You ever been homesick? Who's been homesick? I get homesick some. It used to be for Alabama, now I get homesick for Texas. I get homesick. I want to get back when I'm out and about. I love where I'm at. I love what I'm doing, but I feel homesick. Right here it's saying we're homesick for our true home in the kingdom. It says, because we are clothed, verse 3, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, our body, we groan and are burdened because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling. And again, he's not talking about brick and mortar, right? They're not up there building brick and mortar, some dwelling. He's talking about the ultimate home is being a part of the family of God. It's being his child and being made of what he is and being a part and having fellowship with the Father. That is what he's talking about. And he says, now the one who has fashioned us, verse 5, for this very purpose is God, and has given the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Therefore, we are always confident and know that as long as we are home in the body, we are away from the Lord, right? We're homesick. We're a bunch of homesick people. For we live by faith, verse 7, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home before the Lord. So one of the important lessons that we learn at the feast is this: we're not home yet. We're not home yet, not quite. We're not there yet. Our location, our homeland, is not a physical place. It's a spiritual place. Like we have the animal kingdom. I guess we're part of the animal kingdom now, but we're at the top of it. We're the top. There's the animal kingdom. We're the top of the animal kingdom. You have the plant kingdom, which is there, but there's the kingdom of God, and that'll be our home. Just amazing things. It was looked at yesterday, so I'm just going to mention it in passing. In Hebrews 11 talks about those who died in the faith. and that, we'll look at just a couple of verses. Hebrews 11, verse 13. So, these all that we read about in this faith chapter, they died in the faith, not having received the promises, but seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. So that is our home. John 14:3. John 14:3. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Again, that's where our home is at. And he's going to bring it back to us. And right here, one of the things that we are experiencing when we keep the Feast of Tabernacles, and we're doing it collectively, is that we're a bunch of homesick people, because we're here talking about the feast, we're thinking about the feast, we want to be there. We want to be a part of this so bad. It's our home. But we're like refugees in this world. We're pilgrims. We're looking for our homeland, and it's coming. We just got to hold in together. We got to keep together and get ready for that homeland. All right, the second aspect is family. Right, so we have a homeland and we have a family, because home is family. In John 14, verse 23. John 14, verse 23, I think it's one of the verses I always go to, because this tells me my true family. It says, verse 23, it says, Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. So that's an important aspect of home. Even though we're homesick, it's that Christ, the Father, through the Holy Spirit, it says is a guarantee, it is a deposit. Actually, they are tabernacling in us, right? The Holy Spirit, the Father and Son are tabernacling with us in our body until our change comes. And they're here. And it's a thing we have to wrap our mind around. I can go out and I could ask people out there. I go to the street, ask people, say, where does God live? And I say, well, God's in heaven. God's in heaven. I say, well, yeah. But God says, I'm going to live in you. My home is in you. And that's important in how we act and how we really act, because God says, I'm making my home with you right now. I'm tabernacling with you to remind you of that permanent home that I have for you. So God is our family. And here at the feast, we are family. We are family. Ephesians chapter 2. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 18. For through him we have both access in one Spirit to the Father. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. And he's not saying that we will be, because again, there's that future aspect that we're here celebrating. He's saying right now that we are the household of God. And I've always looked at, and this is the way I've always thought about tabernacles. I've always looked at it that we come here and we get our cabin, condo, tent, if you want to have a tent. We get our temporary place, and when we get back home, well, I'm back home. I'm back to my regular home. My temporary place is gone. And I think I missed a point, is that, yes, my home in Texas is my home, but that is the temporary place. That is the temporary place. What we're doing here, when we're all together as family, even though it's temporary for 1 week, we are looking to something eternal, an eternal home. And we're here this is the family. Look around. These are your brothers. These are your sisters. We are family. Who's here for the first time in the feast? Welcome home. Welcome home, because you're with family. I lost my mom in May. And I guess many of you have lost parents or lost family members. And so when you have a home and you lose an important member of that home, the home's never the same. Never the same. My mom had a really big doll collection in the house, and she had all these great decorations and Gone with the Wind stuff, like, everywhere, just Scarlet there and Scarlet there. Just Gone with the Wind stuff. It was all over the place. And beautiful decorations, and so it was home, and when I'm there, even though she's gone, the home reflects her. The home is who she is. And my dad's there, and my dad now, it's been a few months, and he's not taking it very well. I know some of you may be widows or widowers, and it's very tough, and it takes time, and you may never get over it, because when a home changes like that. And one of the things to realize about our homes is so temporary that, 20 years from now, or whenever, when my dad is gone, there'll be a day we'll pack up the stuff, pull the stuff off the walls, and the home will be sold to someone else. The homes we live in now and 100 years from now, who knows if they will be there. I'm still surprised my childhood home, the trailer is still there. But, so it may be there, but there's good chances it may not be there. So our home is the kingdom of God. Our family is God the Father and Christ and the church. We are family. And our home is comfortable. We have comfort in our home. John 14, verse 26. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. So we have a comforter. We like I mentioned earlier, we have God living in us, and the Holy Spirit is for us to provide us comfort. So when I lost my mom, and I was there, and I don't know if anyone's been there when someone's died in the hospital. And so I was there, and I saw her blood pressure over like an hour just drop, and then her heart rate drop. And it was devastating for my brothers, my dad. It was devastating. But the comfort of God's Spirit, when we have those troubles, is there for us in this world. Who here has troubles or has problems and has heartache and loss? We have those things. But God, again, God doesn't promise us a perfect world that we're going to live in now. Actually, we have to have adversity. We have to have problems so we can become the character we need to be in God's kingdom. We need this adversity, but in adversity, in the tough times, God promises, because we're in the family and we have a home with God now, he gives us comfort. He gives us comfort. And in the future, Revelation 21:4, and it says, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, no crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. That's the very end. That's actually past the kingdom. That when we are at our final home, the comfort that we will have with no more crying, no more tears, only joy, only love, only family, only home. That's what we're here looking to. in God's kingdom. So our home in the kingdom is comfortable. And our home in the kingdom is restful. We get rest from God's kingdom. Hebrews 4 speaks of this. So in Hebrews 4, and we're going to look at verse 4, talks about what it is to have true rest. And Hebrews 4 is kind of dealing with and explaining that when the Israel was in the desert for 40 years, they in the first generation, they weren't able to go into the promised land, were they? They were not allowed, because of disobedience, to enter into God's rest. And again, in the whole picture of what it is to be tabernacling in the wilderness, what they did for 40 years in tents with the tabernacle, the tent of God, with them, all right, what we're doing here. And then the ones who made it were able to enter into that promised land and to receive what it says right here in Hebrews 4, verse 4. And God will wipe away, I read that before. Okay, Proverbs 4, verse 4. For he has spoken in a certain place of the seventh day in this way. And God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again in this place, they shall not enter my rest. Since therefore, verse 6, it remains that some must enter it, and those to whom it was first preached did not enter because of disobedience. Again, he designates a certain day, saying in David, today, after such a long time, as it has been said, today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts, for if Joshua gave them rest, right, we're talking about in the desert, if Joshua gave them true rest, then he would not have spoken of another day. So they were wandering in the desert. They didn't, the first generation didn't make it. Verse 9 says, therefore remains a rest. And that word, we probably all know this because we're here. That word means a keeping of the Sabbath day. There remains keeping of God's Sabbath, a keeping of his holy days, a keeping of this Feast of Tabernacles for the people of God. For he who has entered into his rest has also himself ceased from the works as God did from his. So verse 11, this is important. Verse 11 said, let us labor therefore to enter into that rest. And my mind says to be diligent to enter that rest, lest anyone fall according to the same example of disobedience. So we keep the Sabbath. The Sabbath for us, when we keep the Sabbath day, when we keep the holy days, we're entering to a type of rest that pictures the kingdom of God, the true rest that we will receive when we are in the God family. And so we have it now, because we're part of that family now, but we have it now, but we're looking to the greatest fulfillment of it, of that day. And finally, our home, our true home, is safe. Our home is safe. So no snakes, I guess. No groundhogs. All right, so Proverbs 3. We'll look at Proverbs 3 and verse 19. Proverbs 3, verse 19. The Lord by his wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths were broken up, and clouds dropped down the dew. My son, let them not depart from your eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, so they will be life to your soul and grace to your neck. Then you will walk safely in your way, and your foot will not stumble. So he's talking about God's commandments, God's laws that we have now. We're at home with God's laws now. We have safety. I mean, I guess we can't stop other people from breaking those laws and messing it up for us, and they do. But God's laws bring safety. It says, when you lie down, you will not be afraid. Verse 24, yes, you will lie down and sleep Sleep will be sweet. Sweet. Sweeter than, better than whatever mattress you can get. God's laws will give you sleep. He says, do not be afraid of sudden terror, nor of trouble from the wicked when it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. So again, we have the safety in God's law. And again, everything we do, it's just the temporary aspect, right? This is the temporary life, and it represents the eternal truth of the safety to be in God's kingdom. Matthew 10:28, it says, and again, I want to get into all of Matthew 10:28, just the first part. Christ says, and do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, right? He says, don't fear those who can kill the body and can't kill the soul, right? So in this life, somebody could shoot us, right? I mean, we've had a church of God where a person came in and shot a whole bunch of people. We could get hit in a car accident. One of my good friends died just a couple of months ago in a car accident where someone was texting. They weren't obeying man's laws, and she died. So, but the thing is, he says, don't fear those who can kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, right? You fear him who can destroy both. But the thing is, if he's your God, if he's your master, what is implied by that is we don't have to worry. We are safe. Nobody can do any harm to us. It's not going to be permanent because he has guaranteed safety in the household of God. All right, there's a saying, also from Pinterest and probably on a lot of people's walls, right? Home is where the heart is. Right, you know that home is where the heart is, where we put our heart. And it's been a proverb for like a couple hundred years. We always talk about home is where the heart is. And so I looked at, I said, well, I'm on Pinterest. I might as well look and see what else do people say about home. Well, they say home sweet home, right? We all, you hear that, home sweet home. Another one is what I love about my home is who I share it with. I like that. That's a nice little saying you can put up on your wall. There's no place like home. I guess that's Dorothy when she was clicking her heels. There's no place like home. Make yourself at home, right? Hey, make yourself at home. None of you will actually ever tell me to make myself at your home, right? Probably not. But they say, make yourself at home. A man's home is his castle, right? We heard that. Man's home is his castle. And the last one I found is home is where they have to let you in, right? Home is where they have to let you in. So if you're at the Feast of Tabernacles, welcome home. If you have God's Spirit, he's going to have to let you in. He's going to have to let you in. We're at our home away from home, focusing on the final home. And we don't want to forget that our homeland is the kingdom of God. And who's homesick? We're homesick for the kingdom of God. Our family is each other. And I'm glad earlier you asked people to get to know each other, and that's what we need to do. Try to get to know someone you don't know here today. Because those are your brothers and your sisters. We need to know each other. Because we're going to be stuck with each other for eternity. We're going to be there. Might as well get to know everybody right now. We got a lot of work to do. If what I read is correct in here, I know it is. Our home in God's kingdom is comfortable. More comfortable than we can ever have in the physical world. Our home in the kingdom is true Sabbath rest beyond any Sabbath rest we can imagine in God's kingdom. And our kingdom home, especially if you have God's Spirit, you have a deposit on that home, right? It's always good to have a deposit on the home. and as long as you don't give up on it, that deposit's good. And we can, and we'll have our home. So our kingdom home is safe. So I want to close. I can't think of any other way with just a message from our King that he has for us about that home. And it's back again in John chapter 14, this time in verse 1. John chapter 14 and verse 1. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God? Believe also in me. In my Father's house, right, in my Father's home, are many mansions, many rooms, many positions. There's plenty of room in the household of God. He says, if it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, and this is not saying I might come back. I'm thinking about coming back for you. He says, I will come again, and I will receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And we'll be able to look at Jesus Christ in the eyes. And he's going to look at us, and he's going to be like, welcome home. Welcome home.